What is good, YouTube, man? Today I'm going to be talking about three things. All off-season related, free agency, who we should bring back, who the Raiders should try and look for to sign, and maybe even who the Raiders should look into try and trade for. Possibilities, all possibilities. Let's get into it. Number one, the first topic I'm going to be talking about, who do you guys think we should look for to bring back? I think for us to look for to bring back is really only four guys. We have a lot of free agents coming off our roster this year. And honestly, the four guys that stand out to me is pretty obvious. Denzel Good, number one. He played a huge role in the absence of Incognito and Trent Brown. He was huge for us. I think that that's a guy that you have to bring back because he showed his versatility, man. There's not one position on the offensive line that he cannot fill in for. I think that's a must. That's a must bring back. You have to bring a guy like him back. Number two, I mean, we've seen it. Nelson Agholor. Nelson Agholor, I mean, I feel like you have to at least try to bring a guy back like Agholor because, let's be honest, he was our best wide receiver. He wasn't our best receiver. Darren Waller was our best receiver. He was our best wide receiver this year. In all honesty, Nelson Agholor had the year that we all thought Ruggs would have. And Ruggs had the year that we all thought Agholor would have. So I think you at least try to bring back a guy like Agholor because our receiving room, it's pretty stacked. You bring in like a guy like Ruggs, you bring in a guy like Bryan Edwards, you have a solidified slot receiver in Hunter Renfrow. I think that if you continue to try and bring in number one receivers, it stunts the development of a guy like Bryan Edwards because he has a lot of talent, man. He's the guy that we brought in to replace Tyrell Williams. In my eyes, I think that's why we brought him in. But I feel like if you keep trying to bring in these wide receivers, you stunt the growth of those guys because we're a run-first offense, and we rarely have 5 wide receivers out on the field, 4 wide receivers out on the field. And the 4 wide receivers that were out on the field most of the time was Ruggs, Renfrow, Agholor, and then our tight end was Waller. So it really stunts the growth of our younger guys, and I do believe that Bryan Edwards, that guy, man, you look at what he did in college, he was just Mr. Go up and get it. You threw it up to him, and he was producing handsomely with bad quarterback play. And DC is a much better quarterback than any college quarterback he ever played with. And, we've seen a little bit of these sparks with Edwards, but we also seen a huge spark with Agholor. Two other people I think you have to at least look into bringing back is Nicholas Morrow. At times, he looked like our best linebacker out on that field. At times, in the beginning, you saw first game, Panthers game, it looked like our linebacking core was clicking on all cylinders. It really did. It looked like Kwiatkowski calling all the plays, calling all the shots, and it looked smooth. Littleton was still struggling because, it was a new crazy defense that Paul Guenther was doing. But Nicholas Morrow, we spent a lot of money with those two guys, and he found time to shine in between those two big free agent pickups. So I think Nicholas Morrow is a guy that you really should look into trying to bring back, And the last one, it's not going to be Raekwon McMillan that I'm talking about, not Zay Jones. I think we should try and bring back a guy like Takk McKinley, man. He's young. He's 25, just coming off his rookie contract because the Atlanta Falcons did not choose to pick up his 5th-year option. And I feel like that's a guy, when healthy, man, you look at his film, man, you can tell he did not want to be in the Falcons. And he was excited. He expressed how excited he was when he got signed and picked up by the Raiders. So I think Takk McKinley, you do try and bring back. Now, real quick, let's look at all the money that these guys are going to be wanting. I think Denzel Good is going to want from $3.5 million to $5.5 million. And I think that's a steal, to be honest. I really do. I think Denzel Good, you've seen his versatility. You have to try and pick him up. You have to. Number 2, Agholor. The thing that scares me with Agholor is, he had this huge year in a prove-it-year deal where he had to prove it if he wanted to get this next payday, which is what I'm scared about right now because he proved it, man. He did. But, there was talks right after the season that reports came out saying that he was going to accept a $7.5 million offer from the Raiders for, I think it was 2 or 3 years. And when I heard that, I was ecstatic. A 900-yard receiver for $7.5 million, I would take that every day of the week. But then weeks later, you realize, okay, well, I don't think this is actually getting done. His agent is most likely going to want him to see more options. You know, his agent probably thinks that he can get more. And you know, I do think that there's more receiver needy teams. Like, you know, you got the Packers that might be able to pay him more. You got other teams, the Niners might even be able to pay him more. There's a lot of teams that could pay him more than us. And now it's at the point where, does he want to stay with us, or does he want to get the payday? So I think Aguilar's going to want from $7.5 million to $12.5 million. And I think if you can bring Aguilar from 7.5 to 9 million, I think you bring him back. If he wants any more than 9 million, if you're talking about 10 million plus, I think you let him go and you really see what you have in Bryan Edwards, Ruggs, and Renfro all together as a trio. You really try and see what you got there. And you let Aguilar walk in that sense that he wants anything more than $10 million. Nicholas Morrow, I think he's going to want from anywhere from $3 million to $6 million. It's going to be tough because, you know, he's a good guy, but there's other players like Hint, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I will be talking about in later videos. I really like him coming out. So either you look at a guy like Nicholas Morrow, or you think to pursue a guy like Jeremiah, because he's going to be on a rookie contract, and let's say Morrow's going to want $5 to $6 million. So a rookie contract compared to $5 to $6 million, I think you would take that rookie contract for the simple fact that you can get the franchise tag and the 5th-year option out of a first-round rookie contract. So Nicholas Morrow is definitely a guy you should try and bring back from $3 to $6 million. And Tack, I think he only made 2.5 coming off an injury, didn't prove anything this year, got cut, didn't get his 5th-year option picked up. I think you can pick him up from 3 to 4 or 3 to 4.5 million. I don't think he's going to be looking for too much more. But let's move on from the Raiders free agents. Let's look at other free agents, man. Other guys that we're going to be able to pick up. And a lot of these guys, I'm just going to be simply honest, it's going to be mostly defense, okay? I mean, we all know that that's what we need. We need defense. The number one guy, we all seen it, John Gruden on the podcast with Richard Sherman, man. And Richard Sherman, he is not the best. He's not the best player, but you look at his knowledge of the game of football, and it is unmatched. It's unreal the way he knows the game of football, and he's really smart. He's a really smart player. So I think if you look at what Richard Sherman made this year, $9 million. He's also coming off of injuries and a less productive year. You look at the less production and an injury. I feel like from $9 million, what he made this year, if you can match that or maybe get slightly less, I don't think he's going to be looking for more than $9 million, because he knows that he didn't prove that he was the best last year. I think you can get him for another $9 million. Let's say $9 million for those 2 years that he believes else that he can play in this league. $9 million, he'll be coming with a very, very well-respected guy. In his eyes, Gus Bradley. He drafted him in the 5th round. So I think if we can get a guy like Richard Sherman, that dude, he is a teacher on and off the field. He's going to teach guys like Arnett and like Trayvon and like Amik to bust their ass on and off the field, and he's going to teach them a lot with knowledge in the game of football. You've seen him in the podcast with Gruden. He spoke about it. He said, listen, when you've been in this league for a certain amount of years, you know that there's only a certain amount of plays that a team can have on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down. So you know the kind of routes that they can run or the plays that they can run on those kinds of downs. And that knowledge, I think you need to implement in your defensive guys this year, especially that he knows this system and this scheme. So I think for $9 million, Richard Sherman, like I said, he is not the best player. But man, when you have, we're a team of full young guys. When you have a guy like Richard Sherman that could teach, I take that all day of the week, $9 million. And at the end of the day, when he wasn't injured in 2019, he was better than his stats were better than every single one of our DBs. So I think Richard Sherman comes in, plays the teacher role. I think that would be fine. Number 2, my favorite guy in with the safeties. I think John Johnson III from the Rams. He's my favorite guy. He's my favorite guy. He's been on social media, expressed the fact that he wouldn't mind coming to the Raiders. He's also been hinting at on his Instagram, put a couple times of pictures of the Vegas area, the welcome to Vegas, all that kind of stuff. Also been on IG Live with Raiders fans and expresses how he and Mike Mayock went to the same university. So, dude, if this is the thing, this is a stacked free agent class in free agents. You know, you got all these guys. I think for this guy, for the simple fact that in 2019 he was hurt, you can get him for, let's say other guys are gonna want anywhere from 14 to 16 million. I think you can get this guy from 11 to 12 or 13 mil for 3 years, and I would love to do that. I would love to get John Johnson in. He was graded the third best safety, but out of the free agents. But honestly, I don't think that a guy like Justin Simmons from the Broncos. I think it was just news today saying that the Broncos are looking to tag him again, which the tag is good and bad because these guys earn the fact that they deserve contracts, man, and the tag kind of it kind of takes that away from them. But I think that Simmons is going to be tagged, or the Broncos are just going to lock him up on a 3-4 year deal. I don't think Simmons is going to be available. But if we can get a guy like John Johnson, I really do think he wants to come here. But, you know, that's just all social media stuff. But I do really like John Johnson. If not for John Johnson, I think you look at a guy like Marcus Williams from the Saints. Around the same price. I think he'll be asking for a little bit more because he is John Johnson he can cover his ass off, and also he can tackle really well. But Marcus Williams lacks a little bit in the tackling, but can really cover like very well. So those two for safeties are my options. And if it really goes bad, maybe we try and pick up Marcus May from the Jets. He's not a bad option either. I really like them, but you looked at the game that we played against them, and I understand that Darren Waller is a matchup nightmare. There's nobody else like him in the NFL, but when they put Marcus May on Darren Waller didn't slow down, not one bit. So, you know, I do want to see either John Johnson, Marcus May, or Marcus Williams as our safeties coming in from the safety. And then for the D-line, man, there really isn't many options. A guy just like Justin Simmons, I don't think that Leonard Williams is going to be available this offseason. I think he'll either get tagged or the Giants will find a way to pay Leonard Williams $20 million. You have to think about it. We let go of Khalil Mack because we couldn't pay him the $20 million. So why would we pay a guy like Leonard Williams the $20 million that we didn't have a couple years ago? Leonard Williams, you have to think about it. The Giants gave up 2 first-round picks for Leonard Williams. They gave up 2 first-round picks, and now they're just going to let him walk out the door. I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever. I don't even think he'll be on the market. Honestly, I feel like our best option is to trade our first-round pick, man. I think if you do trade your first-round pick, though, you no longer can look into a guy like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah because that's a first-round pick, no doubt. But if you do, I think trading your first-round pick for a proven defensive tackle, you should do it. And I don't think you should spend 15 to 17 million on a guy like J.J. Watt because I think we'd be hypocrites to trade a guy like Trent Brown, trade a guy like Tyrell Williams because they're injuries, and then we go get the most injury-prone defensive player in the league. Yes, he's very productive. He played this whole year last year, but you know, he's only getting up there in age, 5 sacks. You know, it's still better than most of our linemen, sadly. But if we get J.J. Watt, so be it. But I don't think a guy like J.J. Watt should be coming into this team for the price tag that he wants. If he were to be a $10 to $15 million guy, of course. But we're talking about a guy that's going to be going for $16 to $19 million a year. So I don't think that we should do that just for the simple fact of his paycheck. You know, it's gonna be a lot of money to bring in a guy like him. But there's other guys, you know, Dalvin Tomlinson also from the Giants, but I do feel like his growth as a player really really took off for the simple fact that he was playing next to Leonard Williams, and Leonard Williams is a guy that was, he was doing most of the work. Um, I think Maurice Hurst, the guy that we have, is, he is strictly a pass rusher, but he gets eaten up in the run blocks, and also he hasn't even proved, although we haven't given him the amount of reps that I think he should have, he just hasn't proved that he can do 5 to 8 sacks in a year, or 5 to 7 sacks in a year. So the interior pass rush, I feel like if you trade your first round pick this year and maybe a third or a fourth next year for pass rushing, a do-it-all defensive tackle, I'd do it. I would not be mad at it at all. It would just come down to who would we trade for. There's many guys, because defensive tackles aren't just defensive tackles like in our scheme that's a 4-3 that's strictly DTs. We can also go for 3-4 right ends and left ends that are bigger guys that are used to playing in the interior, but they also have guys on the outside because it's a 3-4 scheme. But those are a couple guys, man. If you want to know how I was, kind of thinking of making these moves, this is all money that I cleared up in my first video. If you want to go check that out, my first video I was able to clear up $36 to $41 million. So I think these moves can easily be made. Small little plug-in kind of guy that I think that if we don't get a guy like Aguilar and we still want to get another end receiver, I don't think it's Juju. I think we should go after a guy like Curtis Samuel, who is a gadget guy. He can stretch the field as well, just like Aguilar, but you didn't see Aguilar catching these screen balls. We had Hunter Renfrow do that, and Curtis Samuel can really get these screen passes thrown to him, and he can make some work. He's what we thought Lynn Bowden could be in a sense, but Lynn Bowden's more of a he's not as good as a pass catcher as Curtis Samuel is. So I think if we can't get a guy like Aguilar, if he's asking for over 10 million or 11 million, I think you could look at a guy like Curtis Samuel. He'll probably be asking from somewhere to 9 million, so, or 8 to 9 million, around that price. So I think we should look for a guy like that if we really want to bring in another receiver this offseason. But some honorable mentions, I guess you can say a guy like Yannick, but at the same time, Yannick Ngakoue, he was being shopped around throughout the season. He didn't really find a stable home, and I do like Yannick, but he's another guy that's going to be asking 13 to 16 million. It's going to be tough to pay a guy like that consistently when there's talks that DC can get another extension. So, it'd be tough. Yannick Ngakoue, there's guys like him. Shelby Harris as an interior guy is also an option, but he is tough because his pass rush is inconsistent, but he can pass rush, and he really can plug those holes. We lost a game because of Shelby Harris in 2019 to finish off the year 8-8. He batted DC's ball down in the 2-point conversion, and maybe another receiver is Marvin Jones, but he's another guy that's going to be wanting 14+ million. So it'll be tough, man. This offseason, we can make some big moves. You saw all the guys that I named, these safeties, DBs, corners with Richard Sherman. The defensive tackles, we only talked about a little bit because there's not many defensive tackles in free agency. This isn't a strong defensive tackle draft class. So I think if you really want an interior pass rush presence, you have to go out and try and trade for one, unless you get the top guy like Leonard Williams, if he's even available, which I don't think he will. But yeah, man, that'll about be it. In my next video, I'm gonna be talking about our defensive scheme and 2 guys that I really want to compare that I think can take off next year with Gus Bradley, because I do believe Gus Bradley will give this guy a chance. And yeah, I'm gonna be making that video real soon. And let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, man. Let me know who else you guys think that we should go after, and just comment down below. Thank you.